Welcome to the Widows Collective, where grief meets hope, healing, and community. I'm Lauren Lentz, grief coach, fellow widow, and the heart behind this space. There is life before loss, and then there is life after. If you're here, it likely means your life has been turned upside down by the death of your person. Maybe you've just found yourself in this new world that feels unrecognizable, or maybe you've been walking it for a while, trying to figure out what healing looks like now. I want you to know you are not alone. This podcast is a gathering place for widows living in the after. Together, we'll name the ache, honor the love, and share tools, truths, and stories that help you feel supported along the way. My hope is that every episode gives you a sense of community, comfort, and permission to meet yourself exactly where you are. Hello, and welcome back to episode 12, New Year's Resolutions When You're Just Trying to Survive. If you're listening today, we have officially moved into the new year, and you may be feeling all sorts of ways. Before we get into our chat, I want to say this. If you are moving into January feeling heavy instead of hopeful, you are not behind. When I entered my first new year without Kevin, I wasn't thinking about goals or resolutions. I was surviving second by second, day by day. Early that January, a friend came to visit me. She was sharing all of her resolutions, including her plan to do a dry January. And I remember laughing, not at her, but at how completely disconnected that idea felt from my reality at the time. I remember thinking the last thing I can imagine right now is giving up one small thing that helps my mind settle in the middle of chaos. And I want to be clear, I'm not saying drinking is the answer or that it's something someone should or shouldn't do. I'm simply naming where I was in that moment. What struck me most was how far apart our worlds felt. Not because her choices were wrong, but because the framework that she was operating from didn't fit the reality I was living in. She was coming from this place of self-improvement and optimization, future planning. And for me, my only question in that moment was, how do I get through another day? My person was gone. My sense of safety was gone. The life I knew had evaporated. And the idea of removing one small comfort in the name of betterment felt completely absurd, if we're being honest. I wasn't trying to optimize my life. I was trying to survive it. And survival in those early days didn't look brave or inspiring. It wasn't graceful or grounded. It was messy. It was raw. It was instinctual. Some days, survival meant getting out of bed. Some days it meant staying in bed and letting my body collapse. Others, it meant doing the bare minimum required to keep the world from knocking too loudly. There was no space for becoming better. There was only space for just staying, being in that moment. And that matters because January so often convinces people that if they're not moving forward, they're falling behind. When grief is layered on top of that, it can quietly turn into shame. So if you're listening and thinking, everyone else seems to be moving on and I'm just trying to breathe, you're not missing something. You're responding to something. And that's what I want to talk about today. How the language of New Year's resolutions can feel deeply mismatched when you're grieving, and how we might approach this season differently when survival, not transformation, is the work at hand. Resolutions are built on the idea of momentum. Think of this: change, discipline, growth, right? But when you've experienced a profound loss, you're not living in that space. Grief slows everything down. It pulls your attention inward. It asks you to tend to what hurts, not what's next. So when January arrives with its pressure to set goals, break habits, become a better version of yourself, it can feel really jarring. It can even feel cruel. Because when you're grieving, your nervous system is already working overtime. Your body is adapting to loss. Your mind is already carrying more than it's used to. Thinking of adding resolutions on top of that can feel like being asked to run a marathon with a broken leg. If you're finding yourself asking if you have capacity for this, or thinking, I can barely get through the day, I just want things to stop asking something of me, it makes sense. You're in survival mode, and that moves differently into the new year. Grief doesn't just slow you emotionally. It changes how your body and your brain use energy. Your nervous system is focused on safety. Your body is conserving resources. Your mind is processing something that doesn't make sense yet. So when the world asks you to plan or restrict, improve or commit, it's asking from a place that doesn't match where you are. This isn't a motivation issue. It isn't resistance. It isn't that you don't want growth. It's that growth looks different when your system is still orienting to loss. Sometimes the most adaptive thing you can do is not push forward, but stay where you are until the ground feels steady enough to stand on. I want to be clear. Survival is not a lesser goal. Showing up to your life, feeding yourself, brushing your hair, getting out of bed, answering a text, breathing through another day matters. There is nothing small about survival. In grief, survival is the work. So if your New Year intention sounds less like, I'm going to transform my life, and more like, I'm going to get through this day, I'm going to protect my energy, I'm going to be kinder to myself, I'm going to make sure I'm drinking water and eating a couple of meals, you're not doing January wrong. You're listening to what your body actually needs. Survival doesn't get celebrated very much. It doesn't come with gold stars and before and after photos. It doesn't look impressive from the outside, and it doesn't fit neatly into a New Year narrative. But survival requires enormous internal effort. It requires your body to wake up each day in a world that no longer looks the way it used to. It requires your heart to keep beating while holding something so painful. It requires your nervous system to regulate itself again and again and again. So if your only goal right now is to maintain, to stay fed, hydrated, rested, and emotionally intact, that is not a placeholder goal. That is the work. Resolution culture tells us more discipline equals healing. Less indulgence equals strength. Pushing through equals progress. But grief doesn't heal through restriction. It heals through safety, through rest, through honesty, through compassion. So instead of asking, what should I fix about myself this year? What if the question became something like, what would make today a little more bearable? That might mean returning to simple routines to anchor you, allowing small comforts to be enough for now, protecting your energy when things feel overwhelming, prioritizing stability over self-optimization. You don't need to take things away to prove you're healing. Sometimes healing looks like allowing yourself to keep what helps you cope. There's a quiet message in resolution culture that says, if you were healing properly, this wouldn't be so hard. But grief doesn't move that way. In grief, we often need more softness, not less. More steadiness, more familiarity, more permission to lean. Healing isn't about stripping yourself down. It's about creating enough safety to stay present in your life. If the idea of resolutions feels demanding and out of sync for you right now, I want to offer something that may feel a little softer or more manageable. Instead of resolutions, consider a boundary, a permission, a gentle intention. Something like, I give myself permission to move slowly. I will stop explaining my grief to people who don't listen. I will prioritize rest when my body asks for it and not think I'm lazy. I will let survival be enough for now. These aren't goals that you can fail. They're ways of orienting towards self-care, and they're allowed to change throughout the year. They're allowed to be messy. They're allowed to be incomplete. These intentions don't demand consistency or performance. They don't punish you if tomorrow looks different than today. They meet you where you are. Grief isn't linear, and what feels manageable in January may feel impossible later. Gentle intentions leave room for that. They allow flexibility instead of pressure. So if you find yourself opting out of the noise, skipping the challenges, ignoring the new year, new you messaging, choosing familiarity over reinvention, that's not avoidance. That's wisdom. Your body knows what it can hold. Your heart knows what it can manage. And right now, that may simply be getting through the day, the hour, or the moment in front of you. Meeting yourself where you are doesn't mean you've given up. It means you're listening. It means you're honoring the reality you're living inside of rather than forcing yourself into a version of life that doesn't fit yet. Grief narrows our capacity, and that narrowing is a part of how we survive. It helps you conserve energy, protect what's tender, and move through this season without asking more of yourself than you have to give. Think of it like this. Your world has changed dramatically, so your system pulls inward. It focuses only on what's essential. It lets go of what it cannot carry right now. That narrowing is intelligence, not weakness. If your only intention is to stay afloat, to keep putting one foot in front of the other, to hold on to what brings even a small sense of steadiness, that is more than enough in this moment. So as the year unfolds, I want to leave you with this. You don't need to become someone new. You don't need to make big promises. You don't need to take anything away from yourself to prove you're healing. If all you can do is survive this season, that is more than enough. If it helps, take a breath here. Notice where you are. Notice that you made it through this conversation. That too is a form of showing up. Okay, my friends, that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for being here and for letting me share this space with you. Please be kind to yourself as you transition into this year. And remember, surviving is not failing. It's not falling short. It's showing up for yourself. Big hugs and lots of love. You've been listening to the Widows Collective. I'm Lauren Lentz, and it means so much to me that you spent this time here today. If you found comfort or connection in today's episode, I invite you to please subscribe, leave a rating, or share it with someone who might need a little support. You can also follow me on Instagram at I'm Sorry We're Friends and join my email list at laurenlentz.com to explore my one-to-one grief coaching, group program, retreats, and other tools designed to help widows navigate loss with understanding and guidance. I hope you'll join me next week for another conversation where we'll continue exploring grief, healing, and ways to reimagine life after loss. I'm sorry you're here, and I'm so grateful that you are. Thank you for being a part of this community. Your presence is an act of courage and self-compassion, and I'm honored to walk this path alongside you.